Hey, we're back with the last part of chapter 5, and I realized I wanted a candle. I like to use real matches. All right, candle achieved. All right, so chapter 5, and we're on page 61 of On the Heavenly Spheres by Helena Aguilar and Louis Ribeiro. And we're on page 61, starting with the subchapter or the chapter subtitle. Yeah, because we're in chapter 5. Subtitle: The Latitude of the Planets. As was stated at the start of this chapter, the celestial position of the planets does not always coincide exactly with the ecliptic. With the exception of the sun, which traces the ecliptic with its apparent path, the moon and the planets may be located a bit above or below the ecliptic. This occurs because of the existence of a difference between the orbits of the Earth and other planets. This divergence is expressed in the term of inferences. Oh no. This divergence is expressed in terms of another. That's going on the same line. Difference. Anyway, if you're reading along, I just didn't move down. This divergence is expressed in terms of another celestial coordinate, latitude. When a planet is above the ecliptic, that is in the north, it is said to have a northern latitude. When it is located below in the southern part, it is said to have a southern latitude. Latitude is also expressed in degrees and minutes of arc and ranges between 0 degrees and 90 degrees. In this practice, it is represented by a number of degrees and minutes and the notation in if the latitude is north and S if it is south. For example, 5 degrees north 23 indicates a planet with a north latitude of 5 degrees and 23 minutes. Oh, you can't see. There's it. It's a tune. There we go. The zodiac is defined as a band of 16 degrees, 8 degrees above and 8 degrees below the ecliptic, which is the central line. Such that it may accommodate the variations in latitude and the planets exhibit over time. The latitude of each planet has a varying range of maximum and minimum distance. Of the traditional planets, Venus has the greatest variation in latitude since its maximum latitude reaches close to 9 degrees and 9 minutes. But these are the traditional planets. If you're going to go to the modern planets, as notated in this little thing down here in the subtext, of the modern planets, Pluto exhibits the greatest variation in latitude, almost 18 degrees, which puts it outside of the traditional limits of the zodiac during most of its orbit. Uranus and Neptune exhibit maximums between 1 degree and 2 degrees, respectively. Okay. Oh, I see what's happening. That's cute. In contrast to the zodiacal longitude, the latitude of the planet does not get represented directly in the horoscope. It's generally located in adjacent tables. In practice, the latitude is not used in basic body of the interpretive system. It is merely applied interpretatively on a case-by-case basis when one makes more specific studies of the planets, for example, as an aid to physical description. As a general rule, the closer a planet is to the ecliptic, the stronger and more stable its effects. Traditionally, a planet within north latitude is preferred to one with a south latitude, since for the observer in the northern hemisphere, it has a greater visibility. It appears higher in the sky and stays longer above the horizon. Nonetheless, as was stated earlier, the application of these rules is very secondary, being eclipsed by the other interpretive elements of greater significance. It's kind of cool to think about, though. The cycle of the planets. The motion of the planets in the zodiac is cyclical in nature because every planet repeats its own apparent motion around the Earth in regular periods of time. These cycles are important in order to understand the dynamic of the planet as well as a part of its symbolism. The planets have two cycles, or major periods, a zodiacal cycle, also called sidereal, and a synodic cycle. Zodiacal or sidereal cycle. This is a period of time that it takes a planet to complete a revolution around the Earth or a revolution around the zodiac. During the zodiacal cycle, the duration of the zodiacal cycle depends on the speed of the planet. So now we have Saturn, and its zodiacal cycle is 29 years, 5 months, and 13 days. Why do I have 28 and a half stuck in my head? Okay, I gotta update. For Jupiter, it's 11 years, 10 months, and 18 days. And again, I have 12 years stuck in my head. It's very close though. For Mars, we have 1 year, 10 months, and 22 days. For the Sun, its zodiacal cycle is exactly 1 year. That's how we get our year. For Venus, it's 1 year approximately, and for Mercury, 1 year approximately. And then the moon is 27.5 days. So now we're moving to the synodic cycle. The synodic cycle corresponds to a period of time that it takes a planet to return to its starting point in relation to the sun. In practice, it consists of a period between two successive conjunctions of a planet to the sun. The difference between the cycle and the previous one resides in the fact that it accounts for, aside from the speed of the planets, the speed of the sun. So as the planets are moving, the sun's going to be moving faster than some of the planets, kind of ish, a lot of them. And so it's not when it comes back through the signs, but it's as it connects to the sun and it's moving and the sun's continuing to move. So it takes a little bit longer to make it all the way back around because the planet is also moving. So I actually didn't ever think that through till just now. So synodically speaking, the cycle for Saturn is 1 year and 13 days. Jupiter's synodic cycle is 1 year and 34 days. Mars's synodic cycle is 2 years and 50 days. So I'm just realizing the faster the planet moves, the longer it takes for the sun to connect to it. So its synodic cycle, it can be longer. Mars has the longest synodic cycle. The next one, Venus, is 1 year and 34 days. With Mercury, it's 219 days, so less than a year. And with the moon, it's 29.5 days. Okay. In the case of planets that move faster than the sun, when the planet returns to the same point in the zodiac, the sun has already moved and it's necessary for that planet to travel a bit more to reach it. As for the slower planets, it is the sun that reaches them. Yeah. Okay, so this word I don't know how to pronounce. A-U-G-E. Og. Auge. I don't know. The Og of the planets. I'll just say Og. Oj. This is a traditional concept that comes up in the context of the model of the celestial spheres and does not have a direct application to the astronomical heliocentric model. It is frequently mentioned by traditional authors, which is why we decided to include it here, even though its importance in astrological interpretation is extremely small. During their travel around the sun, planets may be closer or farther from Earth. The phase of greatest distance is known as Og. I really gotta figure out how to pronounce that. Excuse me. When a planet gets close to this point, it is said to ascend to its Og. And is considered to be advantaged. When it gets far from this point, it is said to descend from its Og and is considered to be disadvantaged. So I'm going to read that one more time because I actually don't quite understand something in it. During their travel, the planets travel around the sun. Planets may be closer or farther from the Earth. Oh, the phase of greatest distance from Earth is the Og. And that is where it is said to have advantage. And when it gets far from that point, then it is considered disadvantage. I think this one, I hope you're reading along, I think this is when you kind of need to look at the chart for it. This is a traditional hold on. It's furthest from the Earth, but is it first from the Earth when it's connecting to the sun? Okay. So I have both Mars and Venus in this picture, and so it's kind of confusing. Maybe if I keep reading it, we'll explain it. In the astrological chart, we can determine the situation by observing the conjunctions of the planets with the sun. The superior planets, Saturn, Jupiter, and Mars, reach their Og close to the conjunction with the sun. They are said to ascend to their Og when the sun gets close to them, and to descend from their Og when the sun moves away from them. The inferior planets, Venus and Mercury, are at their Og during the superior conjunctions of the sun, the superior being on the other side of the sun. That is in direct motion, finding themselves farthest from the Og when they are in the inferior conjunction during the retrograde motion. The moon is close to its Og when its speed is slower, and far from it when it is faster. I've never heard of this before. It's pretty cool. That's one of the reasons I like this book. It covers a lot. We may equate Og to the planet's apogee and its opposite point, perigee. Although these concepts are generally applied to the moon in a geocentric perspective, they may be applied to the remaining planets. I just wanted to consider a little bit more. So now we're into, I think, the last subtitle, which is The Zodiac in Astronomy and History. The zodiac is a very ancient celestial structure that was probably defined by Mesopotamian civilizations. Its representation may be found in almost all of the classical civilizations. The 12 divisions probably derived from the seasons of the year and the lunar movement, since the sun and the moon encounter each other 12 times in a year at new moon. This gave birth to the 12 calendar months and, as a consequence, to the 11 divisions in the sky along the path of the sun. At earlier times, these divisions, marked by stars and signs of the zodiac, would have corresponded to groups of stars. The zodiacal constellations. This zodiac, based upon constellations, is known as the sidereal zodiac. With the passage of time, astrologers and astronomers noted that the beginning of the seasons and signs were not in sync with, and that this discrepancy increased with time. Thus, the phenomenon known as the precession of the equinoxes was discovered. This motion causes the dislocation of the vernal point, the point where the sun is located on the spring equinox, in relation to the background stars. In this manner, the vernal point crosses all the constellations of the zodiac in the period of 25,920 years, changing a sign every 2,160 years. This motion occurs in the inverse order of the constellations. That is, the equinox moves from the constellation Aries to Pisces, and then Aquarius. Aries to Pisces, and then Aquarius. So it goes backwards. And is caused by the Earth's wobble, by the cyclical wobble of the Earth's axis. In order to avoid this distancing and to definitively associate the zodiac with the seasons, the sidereal zodiac was replaced by the tropical zodiac, wherein the signs are divisions of the 4 seasons of the year. This is the zodiac used by the Western tradition and whose structure was covered in this chapter. We do not know when this change was made. Its great promoter was without a doubt Claudius Ptolemy of C100, C178. But the concept may be far older than this author, because both zodiacs were almost the same at the time of Ptolemy, beginning of the Christian era. It is extremely difficult to determine which of the 2 zodiacs was used by astrologers of the time. Nevertheless, all of the post-Ptolemaic Western authors use the tropical zodiac. The great exception is Hindu astrology, which evolved separately from Western astrology after the Greek period and still uses the sidereal zodiac. So now we're going to have a little chapter called Constellation versus Sign. Thus, in the Western astrological tradition, when we speak of signs, we are not referring to constellations. The names coincide because the symbolism of the signs was extrapolated to a great extent from its constellations. When someone says that he or she were born in the sign of Capricorn, referring to his or her sun sign, you'll perhaps be surprised to discover that from an astronomical perspective, the sun is in fact in the constellation of Sagittarius. The actual current discrepancy between both zodiacs is 24 degrees and is known as, it's a Sanskrit term, Aya Namsa. This point does not invalidate astrology as it is often argued. It merely indicates a reference that is different from that used in astronomy. Seasons and signs are the references used in the tropical zodiac, and the groups of stars, constellations, are those of the sidereal zodiac. So now we're moving on to the astrological ages. Another phenomenon associated with the precession of the equinoxes is the sequence of astrological ages. Since the vernal point takes about 2,160 years to cross a constellation, it is said that during that period, that particular constellation rolls over and determines worldly topics. That is the case of the famous Age of Aquarius, into which we are all heading, according to some, or in which we are currently living, according to others. On the basis of the most common computations, the vernal point is found at this moment to be roughly at 6 degrees Pisces and is slowly progressing 1 degree every 72 years into the constellation of Aquarius. If this calculation is correct, we should enter the age of Aquarius in 432 years. This book was printed in the 90s. Well, it actually says copyright 2010. It's actually newer than I thought. This book was printed 15 years ago. It's 2025. So, 417 years. Since the boundaries of constellations are highly disputed, these calculations are left to the imagination and creativity of various authors. Okay, you guys, that was the end of chapter 5. Next chapter 6, Essential Dignities. So fun. Okay. Thank you.